Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Let's Chat Live, where we sit down and chat with new and upcoming podcasts, learn about the hosts and their shows, and obviously so much more. In this episode, we chat with Matt Allen, co-host of the Triple Threat Review podcast, and on top of that too, we will chat. He also did the poster for CR Live for Spider Into the Spider-Verse, which, as you can tell, Chris here is freaking out. I'm your host, C-Ball, Chris Ball, whichever you want to call me. And we have obviously the co-host and the main man for Let's Chat here, the one and only Chris Rebel. And let's get right on to it and let's talk to our friend Matt. Chris, if you would.
Matt, welcome.
What's going on, everybody? First of all, honored to be here because me and Chris have been talking for a few months now, and just glad to be here. Glad to not be talking over Messenger, and glad I'm not a host for once. I can just lean back and be a voice.
I'm getting used to it myself, so it's fine. Because normally Bree is the main person here, and I'm the secondary.
Hey, for anyone watching live, sometimes StreamYard you have to click something. We'll give you a message. You have to click StreamYard for Facebook.
You have to accept it.
Yeah, it's a Facebook thing. But yes, Ball, you beat me to it in the beginning. So we're definitely here to talk about your podcast. So the way Matt and I met is when we were hosting our See You Live event for Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse for our birthday. I just think we were just looking for someone to do a flyer, and then somehow we got connected. And I was like, you're such an anomaly to me because I was lurking your Facebook, and you're like this football coach, kind of more wrestling jock, but then you're also a really beautifully gifted creative artist, because not only did you our flyer, if anyone goes to our Facebook page, you actually made one of my favorite pieces of art, which we are going to be getting on a shirt very soon. The Let's Chat, the graffiti 90s style thing, it's one of my favorite pieces of our art that we have, and it just still blows my mind that you also play football.
I'm just an enigma. That's I'm starting to figure that out now, that I just do way too much with so little.
Especially a Southern boy.
Yeah, especially with a Southern accent. Yeah, I do it all with sweet and a smile. But no, so I played football and I got hurt, so that ended my career, and I got into coaching. So I started coaching right out of high school. I coached my first game at 18, and kind of transitioned, worked my way up in high school. Took a couple of teams to the playoffs, and I'm doing semi-professional now. So I get to do that, and I'm coaching grown adults, and I'm traveling a little bit more. So that's the football side of it. And the creative stuff was actually all on accident. I was our show was rebranding. So we started out as the Top Guys Wrestling Review. Horrible name, but it was just myself and Wayne Brantley, who is my co-host, who kind of helped found the show. We brought in another one of our friends from high school, Ryan Fox, and the third co-host, and really the comic relief, the guy that kind of makes the show actually funny. We came together, we rebranded into the Triple Threat Review, and I just made a logo, and that kind of spiraled from there. And since then, I've done other show logos. I've made flyers for other people. I've made all of I've made most of the merch for the Triple Threat Review. So that was purely on accident, and I figured out I can somewhat do it. So that's kind of how it went from there.
I think it's really cool. It's fun. I feel bad that you've ended up with us, me and Chris Ball. We're when you start talking football, I'm oh, we don't know a ton. So I grew up with a heart condition, so I wasn't really I played with my friends, but I wasn't allowed to play organized football. But I loved playing football when I was younger because I'm big and I'm not very good at catching the ball or anything, but I'm really hard to tackle and I'm fast. So I was really good at having people try to tackle me. Look who it is, everyone. Bree. What up, Bree? That's producer, our partner, Bree Benjamin.
She's a MacGyver. She does it all. She's the brain, the nervous system, really.
We love Bree. And but can we talk about coaching for a minute? Because I am fascinated, and I know it's going to be an interesting entry point, Ball. I hope you saw it. But have you happened to see The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, the Bulls documentary?
So actually, I haven't. I've been so obsessed with now. I'm rewatching Last Chance U, so I'm rewatching all, I think, 5 seasons of that, and that's
is that good?
Yeah, that's on Netflix, and it goes to different junior colleges, and it's kind of showing guys who've been kicked out of school in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, Kentucky, and all that. And
nice.
Pretty much, they're trying to get they're trying to get scholarships to go to a Division I school or to a bigger school, and it's really fascinating. So I haven't seen The Last Dance just yet. I'm trying to finish Last Chance U. So
I've heard it's real. I've heard it's very.
good.
I've heard it's very good and truly shows just how talented and how much of a dick that Michael Jordan is.
Oh, one of the
He's a huge asshole.
The interesting thing I learned about from watching it is that Phil Jackson is a Buddhist, and like a lot of the documentary is like about but Michael Jordan is a phenomenal, obviously one of the greatest basketball players to ever live, but like he would not have been Michael Jordan that we know today without Phil Jackson, because Phil Jackson was the one to recognize, which is why I want to talk to you about like coaching, like about the importance of like your team is the sum of all parts. Because I forgot in the documentary, I think it's the Detroit Pistons. At some point, they figure out his weakness and they keep losing and losing. And Michael had some control issues, shock, and he wasn't trusting his team. And once they do that, there's like a couple moments in the Bull stuff where like some of the utility players, like in those like last moments, like who weren't supposed. I think it's Steve Kerr ends up winning like a legendary game, and he wasn't supposed to have the ball and stuff like that. So like I'm curious for you, it's like as a coach, like I mean I've worked with that stuff. Like is that something you must have to kind of take in mind? Like you can't just always give it to your best player because then they're on to you. So you're kind of like playing chess in a way.
It's a balance.
Kind of, sort of. I got to realize that. So I started out as a position coach when I was just coaching one specific position, which was offensive line, which is all the big fat guys, and that was kind of what I played in high school. So I was coaching them, and then when I went to semi-pro, I transitioned into a defensive coordinator position, and that means I control the whole defense. So I can kind of, I control the defense, and I figure out ways to stop the offense. So the chess match comes into play there because it takes a lot of watching film and a lot of studying and a lot of practice reps. But at the end of the day, at least for my mindset defensively that I had, I got 11 guys for a reason. I have roughly 60 on the team. I'm not going to give it to the best player. There's a reason why there's 11 on the field, because one person can't win the game. So I never really saw it that way. Mainly because that's how I felt as a player, because as an offensive lineman, we do a lot of work and get none of the credit. So I never saw it as my quarterback threw for 30 touchdowns. Okay, I helped for those 30 touchdowns because it's a team sport. So I never really saw that. Basketball's a little different. There's less people on the court, and it's very you can see a little bit more who's the stars in that, especially with the Bulls. I mean, we kind of know, okay, it's Michael Jordan and everybody else. So football, you don't really see that as much, at least from my perspective of it.
Yeah. Ball, did you play football or anything growing up?
No.
Like even like just with your friends?
No, I think the closest, I mean, maybe with my cousin or something. I think the most I ever did when I was a kid was it first grade soccer, which I think that's a rite of passage for everybody. I did that for a season. My brother was the big sports guy, and my parents, I was the one that actually wanted to go into music, and my parents kept saying, "Oh, you can't afford it. I can't afford it." And then that fall, they tried to throw me in basketball. And then I just kept ditching them and going to my friend's basement, locking it, and then getting obsessed with playing Super Nintendo. So it's so funny. and found music through my friend's stepbrother, watching him play drums all the time and getting upset. Never got into music, like playing it, but I got obsessed with it. So
I love that. It's funny too. Like that'll happen with parents. Like, oh no, it's too expensive. You're gonna go play sports. Let's go play hockey, the cheapest sport of all. And it's like, what?
It's how much money goes into sports, man. I mean, it's
crazy.
There's a school not too far from where I'm at now, but their Spirit Pack. So we're which is pretty much you pay a certain amount of money, you get all these shirts, you get pants, you get all your stuff for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could range close to $1,000. So they don't understand how expensive sports are. Really at the high school level, and even at the semi-pro level, because for us, we have to pay league fees, we have to pay for jerseys, we have to pay for all this different stuff. And the semi-pro level is a little bit more difficult because we don't have the funding of a high school, or don't have the funding of boosters. We may have some sponsors, but it's really coming from all one owner who's having to pour so much money into it. And for example, with COVID, so much money was poured into last season, and you only played a few games at home. With not many fans, you end up kind of losing on that. So, a lot of money. First of all, money goes into everything, even with music and stuff. Because my dad's a big musician, and he's poured so much money into different equipment. Traveling. I mean, he just went to Nashville before I was born and stuff like that. So money goes into everything. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, shout out to Chad. Chad, I love how you found your art in Super Nintendo running away from sports. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty common story. That's why, Matt, we were so excited to talk to you. I'm like, oh my God, in a weird way to me, like you were like an other. I was like, a sportser? But I think that's kind of the beauty of podcasting, right? Because I took this great class, the PRX, and one of the things that they said was like, we all come into podcasting like sideways. So like, it's such a interesting amalgamation of people that you come across. And so, like, there's a whole world of sports. So, like, on top of all of this, like, we're talking about creative and you do the sport, then you do a wrestling podcast. To say it like Scottie Pippen, for anyone who watched Last Dance, wrestling. That's an inside joke for just me, and that's just for me. But so tell us about what led to what happened to the pod. Yeah. Let me start that over. Tell us your origins of what led you into the podcast world, from as a listener to someone who wants to make one. And I know the amount of work that goes into these things, and we can't complain about it because it sounds like it's easy, and it is, but it's not. Oh, triple threat as in wrestling? Yes, it is.
Yes, exactly right.
Shout out, Steven.
So in terms of a podcast listener, I love listening to wrestling podcasts, and they kind of had this boom period for right around 2016 up until even now, where you had former wrestlers, former people in the business coming in, doing a podcast, and just telling stories. Telling a bunch of stories. There's one, and I'm gonna upload them. It's one of my favorites. But something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, and Bruce Pritchard's the right hand man to Vince McMahon, who owns the WWE and has owned the XFL and stuff like that. So he was the right hand guy to Vince McMahon for 30 years. So there's tons of stories on developing these characters and developing these stories and signing these guys and all that, and just being behind the scenes of all that. So I got into that as a listener, and I realized that there was something I had wanted to do. People have been fascinated by my voice anyways, for whatever reason. So I knew
it's the accent
somewhere. It's probably the accent from most things.
That's been. I want to listen to you read the phone book right now. It's just so soothing.
Smooth Southern, yeah.
Hey, Matt, can you do us a favor? Stephen Clark said Mr. Perfect. Is that some sort of wrestling reference that Chris Ball and I are not understanding?
Okay, yeah, so Mr. Perfect is the name or the gimmick of Kurt Hennig. So Kurt Hennig was a former
I've
wrestler
heard the
who
name.
unfortunately passed away. Yeah, he unfortunately passed away in 2003, but he was Mr. Perfect. He won a AWA World title in Minnesota. He wrestled all over the place, but when he came into WWE, they gave him a gimmick of being absolutely perfect. So they would shoot these videos and these promos of him shooting like 10 three-pointers in a row, throwing a touchdown pass to himself, playing pool, diving into a pool. Just all these sports stuff showing, hey, I'm absolutely perfect. Here's my gimmick. No one can beat me. And it kind of ran that way. Very talented wrestler. Never won the world title in WWE, but vastly underrated. Didn't really need to either. Maybe not the best ever. I'll say that for later, but he's not the best ever, but he's a very good in-ring worker. But yeah, so the wrestling podcast originally was a football podcast. Shocker. I started out as the fifth quarter, and it was going to talk all things football. It was to be myself. It was going to be a one-man show on Anchor or whatever. And it fell flat. I did one episode that was like 5 minutes long. That was kind of my pilot. And I just couldn't, a football podcast is a lot of work. Like I thought wrestling podcasts were a lot of work. Football's a lot of work because things change all the time. There's different leagues and all that. So that turned into a lot of work. So I got with my buddy Wayne Brantley, who I went to high school with, and I knew that he liked wrestling. Of course, I've always loved wrestling, and so has he. So we came together. We became the Top Guys Wrestling Review, and we recorded, I think, our first maybe 5 episodes at my work. So, and mind you, before I got into the school system, I was selling popsicles in Alabama. That was my job.
Sorry, you were selling what?
Popsicles.
Oh, you were selling popsicles in Alabama?
Popsicles. Yeah.
Who are you, Matt Allen?
No. I'm a jack of all trades, apparently.
He's a hustler.
So we got popsicle, honestly, selling art, football, and wrestling.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
wow.
But we recorded the first few episodes at my work and then in Wynn's basement. And then after a while, we kind of came together and thought, we need a third guy. And we heard that our buddy Ryan was trying to get back into wrestling and start watching it again. So we brought Ryan along, and we rebranded the Triple Threat Review, which is a wrestling term. Triple Threat, a three-way. It's a three-way match between three people. And there was also a tag team, or a faction, is what they're called in wrestling, called the Triple Threat back in the 90s. And it was three guys who all looked different, but they thought the same, and they came together as kind of a unit. So that's where the name and the colors come from. The black and yellow is from the Triple Threat, because that was the colors. So, and since May, we've been the Triple Threat Review. So it's been a year, almost a year and a half, almost 2 years that we'll be doing the podcast. So with over like 100 and I think we're over like 130 episodes. We've done way too many, especially during the pandemic. So
is that right? Stone Cold 316. My era of wrestling was the Stone Cold, like when Mankind did that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Austin 316. Yeah, that stuff right there. So I came in later. I came in 2002. Okay. And of course, I got to watch all this old stuff.
You came in when when I graduated high school.
yeah, I came in at 3 years old watching wrestling. Yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't realize how much of my adult friends love wrestling still, and I don't mean that to like be belittling. It was just like I'm sure we all have those experiences where there's a part of the culture you just haven't engaged in for whatever reason. And then it's always for me. It's like you go to Comic-Con and you're like, Power Rangers is still around, and like I had that with wrestling. I have so many. There's a really not odd. That's wrong. There's definitely this like a Venn diagram of wrestling fans who are also like really into like punk and hardcore music and comedy.
Oh yeah.
I have so many comedian friends who like. And you're know the podcast too, because I used to listen like because Kevin Smith had like Chris Jericho on. Was it Talking Jericho? I used to listen to a lot. Like,
yeah.
Or Mankind is like one of the most fascinating human beings I've ever heard speak. Like he's this masculine, tough motherfucker, but he's like such a huge advocate for like sexual abuse victims and women's rights. What a great guy!
Good old Foley.
He's very interesting. He's one of my favorites.
Foley's a legend.
I mean, he really is. But I'm always fascinated with him, because he's very tough, very rough, and he's fell into barbed wire, been set on fire, all this other crazy stuff. But then yet you get to talk to him, and he's very, like, almost like a teddy bear, and he's done all this stuff. He's dressed like a Santa now for like the last 10 years.
I met him in I met him at a local library probably so many years ago. Yeah, I was in town just randomly. Yeah, I was just walking around, and he was just reading. It was a kid's book. He was reading it to kids, and I was like, "Is that who I think that is?" And he just got out of the car, and he was just there. I'm like, "Holy shit!" And I walked over and I said, "Hey," and I shook his hand, and that was kind of it. And you can see, I was about to ask him, I'm like, "Hey, you still got some scars from IWA?" And I was about to ask, and I could see his arms right where they were, because I was like, I'm like, you always question barbed wire and shit, how real it is. Oh god damn! Well, over in Japan, man, they don't screw around at all.
I always question, tables and chairs. And all that
some of it
and,
is, but some of it.
Change. Well, until you get put through one and you get hit with one. So
yeah,
for us, we were kind of branching into YouTube, and we were going to do wrestling stuff. It was going to be this backyard kind of comedy stuff and all that. And, yeah, we have money to blow. For whatever reason, I say we, but I mean, there was money to blow, so we ended up buying a couple of tables, some sandboard canes, which is just bamboo sticks, and some steel chairs. We started filming pre-COVID, and I mean, we were just beating each other up to the point of where I think I busted Ryan's hand open with a kendo stick. He gave me a lot of good shots to the back with a chair. Actually, I think he almost hit me in the head with a chair. And that hurt. And of course, going through a
waiting
table.
For the hurt. I'm waiting for herniated disc to happen now.
How happy is your family that you decided to go more into the podcast route of wrestling than the backyard wrestling, just for the insurance alone?
They are. They're glad I'm just doing something I enjoy. That's until it gets to the realm of like, hey, we got a ring now. We're gonna get inside a wrestling room and put on matches, which we are doing. Probably around Christmas we'll be filming that. So
let us know.
I underestimated it until I ended up didn't get used on me and stuff like that. Because there'll be actually episodes where I'll be sitting in the middle and I'll have Wayne and Ryan to my side, and they'll hold these bamboo sticks, the Singapore cane. And at the end of an episode, to mess with me because I don't like it whatsoever, because if they're not fun to get hit with. Just a random, as soon as the audio gets done, I'll just get hit, kind of like a double hit through my shoulders, just randomly. And we'll do it to each other. There'll just be a random time where it's like, hey, I'm gonna hit you with a chair, or let me go, choke slam you onto the hood of a truck. And I mean, that's just how we kind of roll, and it gives us ideas to use when we start filming, because we filmed in March pre-COVID. Some of it was okay. COVID hit, we couldn't film, and then we just got more ideas, and we're still giving ideas to each other now to try and make it the worst but yet the best video we can possibly make. But those tables and chairs, those are very real.
The parent in me is like blown away right here, because you're like, well, the COVID's dangerous, we should be careful, but it's not the tables and the chairs that are going to hit our heads. I mean that with love. I think this is wonderful.
Yeah, tables and chairs can't kill you. So,
yeah, Mick Foley's life. Little quick antidote about Mick Foley. So I grew up in Connecticut. I grew up in Meriden by family, and next to Bristol, where ESPN is located. And so my dear friend Crystal Riley used to work at the gas station right by the ESPN. And Mick Foley was like a regular customer whenever he'd be at ESPN, and just. Not a lot. I think maybe like 5 or 6 times. Like there's a period she was working that he was just coming in like every day for like get a cigarette or I don't know.
He's super chill.
But she doesn't know who he was, and like until after the fact, and he's just like the most wonderful, sweetest, kindest, random. Like he seems like he's that guy to like the girl at the gas station. He's like not even like in a creepy, like flirty hit way, just like, hey, how's your night? And like would stop and talk for like 20 minutes when people are trying to get autographs. He's like, I'm talking. Like I don't really. It's fun talking to you. I haven't really thought about a lot of this stuff like wrestling, because I had so many friends growing up. Like I had friends. A friend of mine, my friend buddy Noah, used to do backyard into wrestling. Like, it's there's a lot of physicality.
It's a lot of physicality, but see what drew me in as a fan is storytelling. Because mind you, and it's really weird gray area as well, but there's so much storytelling to wrestling where it's almost like you're watching a movie, because it's really all it is. When they cut promos or when they are talking to each other, that's dialogue. When they fight each other, that's an action sequence, and there's always a start point and an end point to try and get fans in. I was drawn in immediately to guys like Hulk Hogan came back in 2002. I started watching then. The Rock was still around, Stone Cold. All these great names are still around. Of course, new guys like The Undertaker. I think John Cena just came in. So there's a lot of just great people that I could gravitate towards. And that's what kept me really in it, is just the storytelling aspect of it. To really so much so where I've been able to kind of go outside of wrestling and try to write stuff to garner a story out of it.
So you're a writer as well?
I try to be.
You dabble.
So I dabble. So I wrote.
Is it going to be like how you dabbled with that beautiful art that you made for us?
I mean the art's actually good. The writing maybe not so much. So I'm such a. I wrote. I think I was already trying to write stuff before we started filming the video and all this type of stuff. Yes, William Refrigerator Perry, former football player, is in the WWE Hall of Fame because he had one match and he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. So yes, the Fridge Perry, who I believe scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl champion, is in the WWE Hall of Fame as well. Which granted doesn't really mean much, but still.
That's fucking. I'm not in it. I mean, they made a movie about Rudy who played one game, so that's pretty cool.
So the writing stuff, I started writing because we wanted to, instead of just jumping into doing the backyard wrestling stuff, we wanted to create a story behind it. So we wanted to do kind of some comedy skits to kind of put together leading up to this big wrestling match with all of us and a couple of friends. And I wrote a script. We did a table read of it. We enjoyed it, thought it was funny, but then we got together and did improv for 5 minutes, and we realized the improv stuff was much better than what we did writing wise. So I dabble very little. I have a lot of ideas in my head. It's just very hard trying to write them and bring them to life.
I'm an idea guy. I'm the same way. I can't. I have no depth for that unless I'm think tanking with a bunch of people, and then the ideas will start coming if I'm connected. Like if I flow with those people. Otherwise, by myself, I have friends that do that. They can just come up with a concept and just keep going for freaking months. I'm like,
well, and that's kind of how, and that's kind of how I am. Like, safe to say, I think in terms of writing, I think William's probably the better writer between us two because he helped me write the script for our skit. But I'm very much a concept guy. I'm very much an idea guy. So if I write something and I have notes by there, like, hey, I want a nice like zoom in shot, and then we're gonna kind of pan out to a wide. That's what I can hit. I'm probably a much better director than I am writer. But but I mean, it's just really ideas. Like there was one scene. We're not doing it, but there was a kidnapping scene that I wrote and planned out. And we were going to shoot this whole episode with a kidnapping scene, much like an episode of almost like Breaking Bad, which is my favorite TV show of all time. So it was going to be kind of showing you in black and white, kind of a future sequence, and then leading to the episode of the kidnapping scene. It was all to be funny and stuff like that. So I could tell you that, but how to get there and how to make it, intelligent, I couldn't do. So I have tried to do. Getting a little bit better though.
Well, it seems like you're doing the podcast kind of is the perfect way to bring everything you're doing together with the writing, with the wrestling, with the art. Like, it's the perfect amalgamation, and you can do it with your friends. I have to ask you, as a fellow podcaster, how the hell have you got to do a podcast with two other hosts and not have anyone quit? Because I've been solo I started the podcast in 2013. My co-host at the time we started with, he bailed around under episode 20, and I've never, up until I met all these nice people, I've never been able to keep anyone else. Maybe that's more to say about me. So
I was going to say, I think the bigger question is, how the hell you haven't quit after 7 years?
I don't even know.
By yourself, man. I did 12 episode limited series about music, and I got to 7, and I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to handle two other co-hosts, which I don't really handle them. I mean, we always kind of joke around on our show. There's no rules because there really isn't. There's no script. There's nothing. All of that is in the moment. There's no notes. If there's maybe like little bullet points, and I'll have notes on the actual show that we're covering. But
sure.
I mean, I think it's just the fact that I get to do it with probably two of my best friends, and I think that's what's kept us together so long, is that we have so much fun and we're already so close.
You really connect with.
Exactly, yeah. And if you take the mics and stuff away and all that nice equipment that we probably don't deserve, nothing really changes. I mean, we talk the same way outside of the show as we do in the show. The only difference is you get to catch the recorded stuff, and a lot of the not recorded stuff is actually the most funny.
Yeah.
We'll just go off the rails, and it's a little more free.
Unfiltered, yeah. We've slowly been learning this with this live show. We did one recently, which was probably going to come down as probably one of my favorite shows that we'll ever do. But it's also by far the most unfiltered, just off the walls. Which our lovely producer Bree came in and put us all in check like the mom she is, because I mean every other word was in that ball. I mean it was just wild. It was funny because it was like the people that were guesting, they were just as crass. We were just all just going all wild. It was hilarious.
And sometimes, and I will say, I'm probably kind of the dad of the group, which I kind of am. I mean, I'm kind of the guy,
you're a coach.
Granted, I joke around just as much as they do and stuff like that. Now, Wayne's the more serious one between us three, but I'm kind of the one like, hey, maybe let's watch the language we use, or here we're gonna go for this long, or here's what we're doing.
No cussing.
Kind of that lead. Yeah.
The thing I like about your podcast is, like, as a non-wrestling fan, like I enjoyed it because of the banter of the three of you. Like, you're always so, like, you do all the video, you do the videos. Like, I started like just watching them because you'd post the videos after we met. I was like, oh, I gotta check this out. And then I find myself, like, sometimes I will open the live video and then go do something else on the computer, and you know how the video just stays open. And like a third of the way, I'm like, I don't know what they're really talking about, but I just like them. Like you had, and like for us,
connection.
Us Let's Chat team, I love these people very much, but none of us have ever met in real life, and we all have a great rapport. But there's something about being friends with someone for a long time it's just different. I know we'll get there. It just you can't fake it, but I think that's what's so fun about your podcast is that you all just are just best buds talking about the thing you love. And I'm just a sucker for listening to people talk about the stuff they love, regardless of what it is.
Yeah,
you
can't imitate that connection you have as friends or as brothers or whatever. I listen to some shows with siblings, and it's just like you watch them go back and forth. Like, I will never have that kind of connection with my siblings. Like, I'll never have that dynamic that those two are going back and forth. Like, no, I quit.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, and we've talked about it after recording, and we'll always say our best material is the non-wrestling. Like whenever we talk about wrestling, a lot of it's funny, but I mean, there was one bit, I can't remember, it was on one of our most recent shows, but I was doing an Irish accent for whatever reason. And I think there was an Irish wrestler we were talking about, and I did an Irish accent, and for some odd reason that was just very funny and not a part of the show at all, and it kind of spiraled out of that way. And then there's a lot of stuff like that. Our banter together is the most fun we have about it. Because there'll be times where we actually be really heated and get into an argument, but it's still funny. And it's just because we just love picking at each other. There'll be, on one show it may be Wayne and Ryan versus me. On another, it could be all three of us at each other's throats. It's just kind of random, and that's kind of what we enjoy about it. By far, we enjoy it. Sometimes we probably think, oh, we got to be losing listeners over this. But it actually turns out we haven't. We actually gain listeners just for the fact that we're idiots and we argue for an hour.
Lovable idiots.
Somehow.
I feel like I'd be so remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that you mentioned that Breaking Bad is your favorite show, and if I don't ask you, are you watching Better Call Saul?
I am. So, due to Last Chance U, I've put a halt on Better Call Saul. I'm on season 4, episode 4. So I put a halt on it for now to finish Last Chance U. So I am watching Better Call Saul, and I'm just loving it. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Vince Gilligan. He actually, that show itself kind of inspired me to do a little bit of writing and have some different stuff like that. But I love the cinematography, and I can't remember who the director of cinematography was for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and the Tarantino movie, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
They mentioned it a bunch. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed Better Call Saul so far, especially for Jonathan Banks as Mike Ehrmantraut.
I know. I won't ruin anything, but you are in for quite the treat for after season. I think 5 just finished. Right?
5. So yes, 5 is the most recent season they.
And then 6
right?
Coming out.
Yeah. You're in for. You're going to be very happy when you come back to it, and which is great. Like, you got the time for it. Like, just I like to wait before it's about to come back out and watch it all. Like, I'm going to watch The Mandalorian right before in a couple days the new one comes out. I'll go do a rewatch. And oddly enough, it's so funny. Is besides the art and the football and the coach, and we're all huge like Marvel nerds or huge Marvel fans. So like we were before we got a mic.
I'm a young Marvel fan. Like I'm a new MCU fan. I actually didn't watch all the movies until quarantine. So when quarantine happened, I was already starting watching them, but I got Disney Plus, and I've seen a couple. Like I've seen Iron Man, and a couple of them, not in sequence though. But I made a goal was like, okay, I'm going to watch every movie in sequence. I didn't want to dive into the series. I didn't want to watch all that just yet because I did. I prep myself and have more downtime to watch everything in sequence. But
what's funny too, Disney just made them all in sequence.
And,
But Disney just put them all in chronological. After I went online and go back and forth from a Google page every time, like
yeah.
What are you on Marvel wise?
So you can mark it off. I finished it all. I'm in the process of rewatching it, and I believe I'm on 4. So I'm in the process of rewatching it. So I'm now on 4. My least favorite. Yeah, Thor's my least favorite, at least the movies wise. I wasn't a big fan of the movies, but my favorite is Iron Man. I think I loved Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of him. I think that was a good fit for the Tony Stark character, and the movies were pretty well. I can take or leave Mickey Rourke doing that Russian accent in the second one.
He did that all for money. No, he even admitted it was a money
the
roll.
big reason why he got hired for that part. Well, yeah, but it was also the fact that he had just done the movie The Wrestler a year prior,
Oh, that's right.
and he almost got an Oscar for the movie The Wrestler, and so he got that part probably for the fact that people thought he was a box office draw. Not quite. So, but yeah,
No.
and I love Mickey Rourke, but then he started doing this whole.
Oh, he's a visual
like,
draw as an oddity. I think I just finished watching. I think I just finished watching Thor recently. I got to watch Avengers now. This is the next movie. I might do that tonight.
That was so good. I think I didn't see the only Thor movie I saw was Ragnarok.
I don't like that movie. And I feel like I'm on the outside of this. I know I'm on the outside of this one.
It's the best one.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum made the movie. That's it.
Yes.
It's the best Thor movie, but it's not my. It's down.
The Thor movie.
It's down pretty low as far as all the movies as a grand scale. And I think it's Taika, and I love Taika Waititi. I love everything he does, but
except Thor. Ew.
I think for me, when you're dealing with such a serious situation in that movie, and they're like joking through the whole thing like it's a parody, like a slapstick thing going, I'm like, this dude's world's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like there are parts
every Marvel movie, and it's really like a Joss Whedon thing.
Yes, and he did what? Avengers, right? He did the first Avengers.
Age of Ultron. And that was a very well-known thing. Him and the studio
fought. He did Avengers.
Both of them.
Yeah, he did the first and Age of Ultron.
Ultron, I think post Endgame, Ultron actually holds up better. They kind of did some course correction. I don't go back and watch it, but
I wish they would have redid that damn Ultron and made him like he should have been, like in the comics and the cartoons, instead of made him look like a transformer. And made him more robotic because he was definitely
just a Decepticon with a very soothing voice.
Yeah, and they have David Spade, which is a great actor, but Jesus, he just
David Spade's and
David Spader.
Oh yes,
no. James
Spader.
James Spader. Oh, see, there we go. See, now we're both wrong.
Spade would have been
weird.
Got the interception over here.
It would be Tommy Boy meets an Avengers movie. Oh, that was for Ragnarok, essentially.
Yeah, I will say that movie Ragnarok. It's the first. I think it's the first like half of it, pretty much up until Hulk. Like once he runs into Hulk, that for me is when it kind of. Like I'm okay with that movie from there on out. It's that first whole section of it. That movie just like I don't know what it is. I've watched it 3 times, and every time I'm just like I just feel like I'm like watching a parody or like a blooper reel almost. The way it's very slapsticky, bloopery.
Is this our first fight?
Well,
what?
Oh, I said, is this our first fight? Because you don't like Ragnarok.
Oh,
I get a lot. Don't worry.
All of it.
You know what? My wife and I watched AntMan 2. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry, there was like a lag.
Oh no, you're fine. But no, I think it's like that's kind of what I think downplayed some of the Marvel movies. But every single one of them had a slapstick basis on them after like Avengers. And also such because Justice League had the same thing since Joss Whedon also directed Justice League. So
I think
we'll make everything funny.
I think it's a different type of like with Whedon or some of the others. I think it's a different type of humor compared to Taika's. Taika's humor is very, he's got like almost reminds me of like that old timey comedy type of like humor. Like I don't know what it is. Yeah, in a way, but it felt really odd for me in that movie. I think if it was more of like the more towards the comedy beats that they did in the other movies, I think it probably, but maybe a little bit amped up a little bit more. I think it would have felt a little better for me. But like I said, once you get into the actual reveal of Hulk, then it's fine for me. Like that movie from the rest of the movie on, it's fine for me. It's just that first part of that movie, that first section, I'm just like, oh, I gotta go through this again for the 3rd time. All right, let's do this. I gotta finish this damn movie already. just because I want the storyline. I need it. You know, you gotta take a hit for this just to progress the damn storyline. What are you eating, Chris? Is it legal? Is it legal in my state?
I'm gonna take my sleep meds.
Oh Lord, here we go. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a worse movie. Like for me, I think Captain Marvel's way worse. That movie is boring as hell. It's Brianna, huh? I think
I
he
enjoyed
died.
it. I thought it was. I mean,
There you go.
Well, I enjoyed it to a certain extent. I think I'm more the '90s of it.
I feel like there was a really good movie in there. There was just something about it. I don't know what the hell didn't work. I don't know if it was, I think it was the writing probably didn't pan out as well as it should have. Like I said, the '90s thing is perfect. Like I loved all that. I think Brie was. I don't know. I know people that give me hell about that too, but I think Brie is an actress. At least in this, it felt so phoned in. Like it was just kind of like, all right, here I am. Hi, let's do this.
Especially because they film Endgame first, and they and I like Captain Marvel. I agree with you. I think it is a little bit more of the it's one of the ones I don't go back to watch as frequently because she was so much more animated and Endgame, and they made Endgame. Her scenes with Endgame were first, and then they went back and made Captain Marvel, and there was a little bit. I mean, I think she's a great actress, and I hope
they learn from that. I hope they learn from this and improve it for the next movie. That's what I hope. Like that's what I want to see.
Though those AntMans, I just watched this AntMan 2 again. My wife hadn't seen it, and I forgot how good it was. It was such the thing about Marvel movies that I always say is like you got to watch them like a TV show, and like AntMan movies are just kind of like a palate cleanser. Like you just turn them on and that's it.
Ant-Man and Wasp for me, I liked it. Enjoy it. I think my only catch with that was Ghost was way underutilized. You all right? You still there, Maddie? You all right?
Yeah.
You're falling apart.
Connection issue?
I'm trying to be.
There you go. No, I feel like even my friends say it too. It just felt like a vehicle to lead into the next movie, to the next end game. Because of the ending and the secret ending of it. The whole quantum.
Oh yeah.
It felt like it was they were just using it as a vehicle ultimately.
Yeah.
And Ghost was way underutilized. I hope they bring her back as an enemy or some form because they did not do enough with her. And that's a cool enemy too. That's a cool ability.
When you're coaching football, is there a lot of comic book talk? There's a lot of crossover.
He's pulling all the stag mags out of the
hearing right now because of some connection issues. So
you got it. Breaker.
Sorry, Matt, if you could hear us, I sent you a message in the private chat. I think we're having some internet issues. Yeah. Actually, we could let's try to. We can kind of wrap it up a little bit early because of the internet issues. It happens, and we'll definitely do something again because
or bring it back. You make our stuff.
Yeah, you're the one. I think this is the longest sports talk that's ever happened in the history of Let's Chat history. So thank you for that. Matt, if you can hear us, your internet is kind of cutting out. Where can people find you online? Poor guy. Hey, listen, folks, this is live, and this is all part of the game. Listen, I've done enough of these where things always go wrong. Oh, there's Matt.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll wrap it up. We'll do something fun again. Let's make sure. So, Ball, do you want to take us out?
I suppose I can.
We have an outro. Where can people find you online, Ball?
We don't have an outro. Well, let's see here. The Triple Threat Review podcast can be found at any of your normal podcast feeds, Apple Podcast, Spotify, any other one you can think of that I can't think of at this very, very moment. They have, I believe their Twitter and their Facebook is pretty much the same. I know that sounds incredibly good. We are at Let's Chat Live pretty much everywhere at this point. I don't think there's only one. No. All our stuff on the bottom is our information. I am at the Irish on Fire at most places. We have Rebel over here at all of his places, wherever those may be.
Let's Chat Rebel.
Let's Chat Rebel. And our guest, the wonderful Matthew Allen, artist, coach, podcaster, and future writer and co-host of At the Triple Threat BAF. And there we go. Oh no. Hold on, magic moments. Nope.
Matt, if you can still hear us, thank you so much for your time. That was so much fun. And everyone, thank you for joining. Let's see one last shot. That's too bad. That's I'm sure. Is everyone else noticing that? It seems like that ever since quarantine, everyone's having shitty internet. The time when we need it the most. Thanks, America. That's how this works, right?
He apologizes. He just messaged us right now. Like I said, we're gonna bring him back soon. He makes us fun stuff. He's a good friend of ours. And I'm sure I can have some more stories I didn't tell about wrestling of my past that I can share later on in some form.
That's what I would hear.
Thank you guys for another good night of this, being a second night of the week that we've done this. Look at that magic.
God, do you ever sleep? So have a good rest of your night, everyone.
You too, guys. Have a good night.